Hi, Steve from GuitarZoom. I'm here with my buddy Paul at Flatland Guitars in Fargo, North Dakota. And Paul has decided to give us his time. We're going to be talking about purchasing your first acoustic guitar. One of the things that I find a lot, I used to work in a music store myself, and sometimes you're just not sure what you're looking for or what you should be looking for. And so, you don't necessarily want to go into a guitar store and walk out, spending as much as you would on your first car. So the trick here is trying to figure out some do's and don'ts to purchasing an acoustic guitar. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well.
Good. So, Paul, I'm going to give it over to Paul. He's going to tell us a little bit about, for instance, Paul, if you had somebody walk into your store today and they've never played guitar before, they're really excited, and they want to buy an acoustic guitar, what would you tell them?
Well, first starting out, you can get a lot of guitar for not a lot of money. And just a few things that you need to look at before you buy that guitar. Looking at the guitar, there's obviously strings, a top, back, sides, all that kind of stuff. And it's all going to equate into what that guitar does for you. The guitar itself is going to have several different shapes, sizes. If you're small hands, big hands, smaller person, bigger person, either way. So those
options are available on a beginner guitar?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
To find a guitar that's going to fit you and be comfortable with you is what you want to find.
Sure.
Starting out, we'll just grab this guy right here.
Sure.
This is your typical dreadnought acoustic guitar, which is probably the most common shape you'll see on an acoustic guitar.
And when you say dreadnought, what do you mean by dreadnought?
Basically, dreadnought is the shape of the body.
Gotcha.
Shallow waist and a bigger guitar. So if you think of like a bluegrass guitar or just the big boomy guitars.
Sure.
And starting out, when first looking at a guitar, like this one in particular, is all laminate construction. So that the back, sides, top are all consist of laminated woods with the like a mahogany back and a spruce top, and then layers of wood underneath each.
So what benefit does the wood, like if you don't know anything about a guitar, why would you care if there's a mahogany back and a spruce top or something like that? Or
on a laminate guitar, it doesn't matter so much.
Okay.
The tone woods are they do create part of the sound of the guitar.
Sure.
A laminate guitar doesn't necessarily have as much to do with the tone as a solid wood instrument will have.
Right. So I guess, that's something that's probably pretty important. Let's go bottom line here. When you're gonna buy a beginner guitar and the cost of it is going to be an issue, you also have to take into consideration that the tone of the instrument is going to be an issue, right? Generally, if you buy a lesser expensive guitar, the tone isn't going to be as good as you would if you bought a more expensive guitar. Is that true?
Yes. But to somebody who's never played before, you may not hear it.
Well, and that was going to be my point, is you always have to remember that what's most important is its playability, in my opinion. You're probably not so concerned about tone if you don't really know how to play a guitar. What good does it do, right? Yeah. You need something that when you grab it, you put your fingers on it, you start playing chords or whatever you're doing, it's got to feel comfortable. Would you agree that's
the most important thing is that the guitar is comfortable to play.
Right.
So, and there comes things that you want to look for.
Right.
When you first pick up a guitar, does the body fit you? Does it sit in your lap? Can you put your arm around the guitar? Can you put your hand around the neck?
Right.
A lot of guitars nowadays are in great shape. They're coming straight out of the factory with nice slim profile necks.
Sure.
Best, if you're looking for a brand new guitar, play a lot of them. Sit down with a bunch of different guitars and see how they feel for you. Find the most comfortable guitar for you. That's probably your best option.
Right.
To just keep playing around, seeing what fits you the best.
Right. I know it's really hard to tell from video, but Paul's a little bit taller than I am, right? So if I'm going to look for a guitar, and it doesn't matter whether it's a beginner's guitar or an advanced guitar, I need to make sure that it fits me in terms of playability in my body. And I need to make sure my hands are quite small, and so I need to make sure that the neck isn't what I would refer to as a tree trunk, which probably wouldn't be a tree trunk for him. But I need to make sure that it's very comfortable for me to be able to get my hand around. And this is just a general information regardless of what instrument, whether it's your beginning, your first acoustic or whatever. But And so be aware that when you go into a guitar store, if you were going in to see someone like Paul, he's already aware of the fact of the size of the customer, right? So he's already taking that into account when he's looking at trying to size you for this acoustic guitar. So,
and when you're looking at the guitar too, there's certain things you're going to want to look for as far as, buying a guitar from a local shop. Generally, they're going to go through that guitar and make sure it's all set up to how you like it. You order it offline, you don't know what you're going to get.
Sure.
So it's always great to be able to sit down and have a guitar, hold it in your hands, see how it feels, be able to look at the strings and go, oh my gosh, those are a mile off the fretboard.
Right.
Or, wow, that's really nice and easy to press down. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the benefit from a shop. You can go into one, sit down, play a lot of guitars. Try to find what is comfortable for you. Like this is a bigger guitar. It's a dreadnought guitar. You move down to a smaller guitar. This would be like an auditorium-sized guitar. And what this one is it has a deeper waist cut and not quite as large of a lower bout. It's a little smaller sounding guitar. I like to say focused as far as the notes and the note separation. It's not as big and boomy, but it has a nice crisp sound. So the other thing you want to look for also when you're looking for a guitar is what kind of music are you intending to play? Are you going to be a heavy strummer? The music you listen to, real heavy acoustic playing or more of a fingerstyle playing guitar? That's going to bring another thing into the equation. But just starting out, you're probably just going to be learning some chords, figuring out where to go.
Do you find that with beginner acoustic guitars, we talked about the body style and how that could fit you differently, and we talked about the neck, the thickness of the neck and how that could fit your hand differently. And of course, the third really important thing that he just mentioned is the strings, the distance from the strings to the neck. And that can make an enormous difference on the playability of the guitar. You could have a great guitar, but if it's set up horribly, it's still going to be hard to play. And if you're a beginner guitar player, you don't really know. You just know what you grab and you try and mess around with. Mm-hmm. So that's why it's nice to have somebody that, like Paul, that would be willing to help you find that guitar. Or you bring somebody with you that plays guitar and they can kind of direct you as well. But the other thing I was going to say is as we're looking at this guitar and we're thinking about the body style and all that sort of thing, what would you say in terms of, like, when somebody comes in your store and they want to buy a guitar, would you talk to them about, like, the Dreadnought versus that in terms of the way it sounds, like he was just talking about beginning playing guitar? What do you notice in difference between the sounds of those two?
The biggest difference in sounds, trying to equate a little bit to, is that the bigger guitar is going to be a little bigger, a little louder.
Okay.
The smaller guitar, it can be just as loud. You hit it if you hit it just as hard.
Sure.
But it's not going to have the big bottom boom that a bigger guitar will have.
Sure.
It'll be a little more focused, a little more, just basically more of a focused sound. Every note rings really true. So you kind of hear all the note separation more so. I mean, you will on a big guitar too, but they're meant for strumming.
Right.
Cool. So, yeah, and the probably the most important thing too, also when you're looking for the guitar, besides how it fits you, size wise and all that kind of stuff, string height, making sure that the strings are easy to press down. Few things that if you're looking in a shop, they'll be able to check the neck, make sure it's straight, it's leaving in good shape, and you have that rapport to bring it back in and get it checked over whenever it may need something.
Right.
And you'll know when that guitar needs something, because it'll either sound horrible or it will be very hard to play.
Right. Well, and that brings me to really 2 points as well. He was just talking about purchasing online. Now, there's a lot of things that you can buy online that probably would be just fine. But he really is correct in that it's like if you went into a guitar store and you sat down and you played a guitar and it felt right, it felt the way you want it to feel, the body and the neck and everything. To be honest, it's kind of weird because you could have 5 of those exact same guitars sitting in a row and they're all going to feel differently. And so it really is, in my opinion, it really is important to actually have played the guitar that you want to purchase. And the next thing I wanted to bring up was used guitars. Mm-hmm. When I was growing up, maybe this is wrong, but it always seemed like the difference between the cost of a new guitar and a used guitar were vastly different. Like that's why you wanted a used guitar, because you could get it for cheap, because it didn't seem like there was that many guitars around that were less expensive, where now there's a ton of stuff that you can buy at a cheaper price. What advice would you give for buying used?
Used guitars are a great deal. When you look at a guitar, be it new or used, you can find them kind of in that same price point, but the guitar that you find that's in the same price point as a brand new guitar that's used, it's probably going to be a little better guitar. It's probably going to have better wood options. It's going to have a broken sound that's been played. There are some problems that you might want to watch for. What I generally will do, first thing looking at a used guitar, is if you look at the fretboard of the guitar and look at the frets crossing, when you play your guitar and you're pushing the strings down, little by little, they're eating away at the frets. And when you look at a used guitar that's been played heavily, there are going to be big divots in those frets. And that's going to create problems down the road.
Sure.
And you may want to avoid that guitar. If you really love the guitar, sometimes they can be dressed out. But if you're just starting, don't worry about that stuff.
Well, and it probably makes logical sense, too. You know, we have pawn shops here in Fargo, obviously. But the thing you got to be careful of is if you go to a pawn shop, you're not really dealing with somebody that knows guitars. You're just dealing with somebody that's selling product. You know, they're selling pots and pans over there and guitars over here. So you have to be a little careful with that. You know, if you find a used guitar in an actual guitar store, you know, someone like Paul has already gone through that guitar and checked it and knows what it is. I mean, for instance, you know, there's two things that you can do with an acoustic guitar. People will bring it in on what's called consignment, which means that Paul will sell it for them. Correct?
That is correct.
Or Paul might decide to buy it himself and then sell it in the store. Like he might find some used instruments and then purchase them and then resell them in his store. And so in either case, his job, of course, is to go through and make sure that everything is set up appropriately before you'd come in the store anyway. Otherwise, he wouldn't buy it in the first place, right? If the neck was really bad, he wouldn't purchase it anyway. So
that is true.
Cool.
So yeah, if you're looking at a used guitar or even a new guitar, one thing you want to also look at, we were talking about how the strings are on the fretboard. If they're really high, sometimes it might just need a neck adjustment. If you're looking at a guitar shop, ask if they can fix that. What also may be causing that, what I generally will do is, okay, so on the plane of the neck, you want that running to the bridge. The bridge is the wood piece on the top of the body here, and within that bridge is a saddle. And the saddle is what the strings run over, and that creates your break point, your sound, and all that. If you look at that saddle and you're like, oh, geez, that's can't go down at all. It's sunk into the top,
right?
There into the bridge, so there's nothing really sticking out of the top of the bridge, and the strings are still high off the fretboard. That's a guitar to put back on the shelf and kind of leave it alone.
Sure.
It's just going to be problems down the road. It's not going to last very long for you.
Right.
So a couple little things to watch out for in there. So fretwear, saddle height are the two main things in a used or even a new guitar that you want to watch for.
Sure. Okay. So, I mean, really, to summarize what we've done so far, if you were buying an acoustic guitar, your first acoustic guitar, you need to make sure, number one, that it feels comfortable, right? The body has got to fit your body. The neck has got to feel comfortable. Now, again, if you never really played guitar before, that might not mean much. And that's another thing that I want to get to. The third thing real quick is, of course, the comfortability of the strings on the neck. But let's be honest, if you've never done any of this before, you don't really know what you're looking for, right? And so the next point I want to bring across is the cost of the guitar. When I used to work at guitar stores, sometimes I would get a parent that was overzealous and would come in and go, you know, my son wants to play guitar, and so I want to spend $1,700 on a new guitar for my son. And not that I wouldn't necessarily want to take their money for whatever they want to buy, but you would try and maybe talk to them about the fact that they don't really know what they want. I mean, you can buy the fastest car on the planet, but you're still not going to be able to drive it any faster out here on the streets of Fargo than anywhere. So you kind of, it's not really serving its purpose. So one thing you need to think about is the cost of the guitar. If it's your first guitar, or maybe maybe you've already owned one, but you're looking at maybe just bumping up a little bit. If you're not really sure what you're looking for, that's what makes the cost of the guitar so nice. Is once you've got this guitar, once you've purchased this guitar, I don't remember how much this is, but $250. So you purchase the guitar for $250. Maybe 6 months from now or a year from now, you're going to have more knowledge on what does feel good. What is a comfortable size of a body? What is a comfortable size of a neck? Your first time out, Paul's going to help you with all that. He's going to look at you and he's going to go, hey, this would be a really good one that would fit you. The cost is really good, all that sort of thing. But until you really know what you're looking for, you don't want to have to spend a whole ton of money and then get all kinds of features on there that you don't really know what you're going to do with them anyway.
That's very true. Start basic.
Yeah.
Is the kind of the key. Because you're going to grow into your guitar. You're going to grow as a player. You're going to grow to find what you like. You might, the big guitar might fit you and you might really love it. And down the road, you're like, oh, I don't really play what suits that style of guitar.
Sure.
You don't really know that until after you get going and
Right.
find out what you really enjoy about the guitar. So yeah, it's great to start in just a moderate price point and just get a great guitar that you can play and grow into.
Right.
Starting out with a laminate top or a laminate instrument, it's great because you don't have to worry about it as much. In real dry climates, you're going to have to worry a lot about your acoustic guitar if it is all solid wood.
Sure.
And even if it isn't solid wood, you
Right.
want to worry a little bit, but not terribly as much. So
Right.
it's a guitar you can not spend a ton of money on and get your feet on the ground and start going.
Right.
And that guitar is going to last you. You can have it in the corner of your house.
Right.
Kind of your go-to campfire beater guitar.
Sure.
You don't need to worry about, and it helped you get to where you're going.
Right. And obviously the nice thing about buying a guitar from, a local store is that whenever you need work, anytime you can bring it back, even if you think, I'm not sure if this is right or if this seems uncomfortable or something seems different, you can always bring it in and if they are a good guitar store, they will say, no problem, we'll take a look at it. Let's take a look and see what we got going. Or if you need help with changing strings, again, if you're new to this, you don't know how to change strings. I mean, you're going to learn how, but that's why you have people like Paul to help you with things like that. He can change the strings for you and optimize it, set it up so it's comfortable for you, and all those sorts of things. So really, there's a lot of benefits to buying local, to buying from a guitar store that you can physically touch and you have the assistance from a professional. So I guess the one last thing I wanted to talk about real quick is when we talk about a beginner's guitar, and of course many times we're talking about cost. One of the things that can bump up the cost on an acoustic guitar, beginner acoustic guitar, is what they call electronics, which is where you can actually plug it into an amp. And I do agree, Paul, that you find more and more that beginners' guitars have those electronics built in.
A lot of them are.
Yeah.
And it's kind of nice because if that is a route you want to go, it kind of saves you a little bit in going down the road. The guitar might work for you a little bit longer. You're going to have to spend a little more money on the guitar right off the bat. But, you get into that point where you want to plug it in or you're playing with friends or whatever, you have a guitar that you can plug in.
Right.
On the lesser expensive instruments, it's not necessarily the greatest electronics in the world, but they've really come a long way, and they do have a very decent sound to them that are going to work in almost every situation. The other thing that you're going to find on a guitar that has electronics on it, most of your guitars that have electronics are going to have a cutaway, which is what this here is. And what that does just kind of, gives you a little more access to the upper register, which...
So if you wanted to solo, once you start learning how to do stuff like that, you might move up.
And then it also has a built-in tuner. Not all of the guitars that in this price range are going to have that built-in tuner, but a lot of them will.
Sure.
And that's always nice because you're not going to lose it. It's always right in front of you.
No, that's right. That's right. So if you took two exact model guitars and one had electronics and one didn't have electronics, what is the difference in cost at the beginner level? At the
beginner
first
level?
level?
Like that first Dreadnought I was holding up and this guitar are the same guitar. The only difference is the electronics. So that first one that we had was a $200 guitar, all laminate construction, and this is all laminate construction with the cutaway and electronics, and it's going to cost you about $100 more.
Okay.
So
that kind of makes sense.
you can, basically you're going to be looking with everything in the same degree, about $100 difference.
Sure. Well, that makes sense. I mean, and obviously for those of us, again, that grew up when maybe guitars didn't always have electronics, the big thing is that when you have an acoustic guitar and you don't have electronics, there's alternate ways that you can put electronics in there, but it sure is slick to have it already pre-built into the guitar. It makes it look nicer, and tends to be a bit more functional.
Yes.
So just some things to think about. So thanks so much for showing us about these acoustic guitars, and we'll speak to you soon.
All right. Thank you.